What we've seen is that housing construction productivity has been going backwards for 30 years. So if we look at the amount of house built per hour worked, that's down about 50% on where it was 3 decades ago. And when we adjust for the fact that houses now are bigger and better quality, productivity is still down 12%. And to give you a sense of how that compares, the rest of the economy has increased its productivity by about 50% during that period. So we are really going in the wrong direction.
The key factors dragging productivity down, such as slow and complex approvals and skill shortages, are already well documented. Are these challenges that can be overcome?
Look, I believe they can be overcome. It's certainly not a simple process. And as you say, I think it is reasonably well understood that these are the fundamental challenges facing the sectors. I think on the regulatory side, it involves really saying we're going to emphasise housing supply and affordability in every decision we make. We have a whole range of regulatory objectives that are in play in the housing sector. Many of them are very worthwhile, but the cumulative impact of those has been to increase the time and complexity of building. So I really think we need to look at it with a fresh eye and very much with a sense of needing to streamline what's there.
In trying to tackle the policy and regulatory issues in favour of quicker and cheaper construction, do Australians need to accept a compromise in building standards?
Look, I think the compromise comes with some of the other objectives. So, I mean, very clearly we want builds to be a decent quality and safe. I think that there's no question. We've layered on a range of other objectives around environmental standards, around accessibility, around amenity. Sometimes we will have to make trade-offs with some of those with the cost of building. And really our point is, for the last 30 years, we've tended to always say yes to these additional objectives, but the effect has been to make building slower and more expensive.
Why hasn't prefabrication been a bigger part of Australia's housing story up until now, and should it play a bigger role?
Look, it's a really important question. Prefabrication is a genuine innovation in the sector. It does allow some efficiencies and certainly from what we found seems to support better quality in some cases and better environmental outcomes. I think there's a few reasons. It's struggled to find scale and therefore the economics haven't always been there. Second, our regulatory regimes are designed around a different type of building and it hasn't always been clear how prefab fits within that. So that's been a bit of a disincentive to uptake prefab. And then I think there's some cultural pieces as well. We're kind of used to doing things a particular way, and adopting a new innovation takes time and needs us to sort of shift that mindset.
Is the 5-year target of 1.2 million new homes now a distraction?
I think it is a good thing to have a target because it sent a very clear signal that supply matters and governments want to take the supply question seriously. It's clear that at least so far we're not on track to meet that target, but I would hope that would galvanise governments to push even harder on some of these questions. So we have seen some pretty important changes in terms of planning regimes to support greater density near major transport infrastructure. But what we'd like to say is a more wholesale look at the regulatory environment, including things like building regulations that are also contributing to the lack of new supply.
Danielle Wood, thank you.
Thank you for having me.